Breaking. Special counsel says that President Biden's memory appears to have significant limitations and that he did not remember when he was vice president or even within several years when his son Beau died. Four more years, yeah. Special counsel Robert Hur has declined to prosecute Joe Biden for his handling of classified documents, but said that Biden's practices, quote, present serious risks to national security, and added that Biden portrayed himself as a elderly man with a poor memory who would be sympathetic to a jury. Oh, dear.
Been released about President Biden's handling of classified documents that were found at his home and office. This follows a year-long investigation.
For those of you who don't know, Biden's team, I think back when he was a senator and VP, also mishandled classified documents, but it wasn't like the Trump case. It was more like they literally just mishandled it, you know? Whereas Donald Trump secretly shuffled them away and lied to the FBI while trying to hide them from investigators. In this case, he just, like, there were stacks of it. They gave him back when requested. It wasn't as big of a deal. So they finally resolved this case, and
by special counsel Robert Hur into just how those documents, many of which appear to be from Mr. Biden's
fucking everyone mishandles classified documents. Yeah, I did it recently myself.
Time in the Obama administration got stored there and why. This investigation separate from the case against former President Trump, who has been charged for allegedly mishandling classified documents. The White House says President Biden voluntarily returned the documents and cooperated with the investigation.
Me with a suspiciously classified document-shaped belly. Yeah. Hi, guys.
Ken Delaney is NBC's Justice and Intelligence correspondent. Ken, what does the report find?
Lester, special counsel Robert Hur found that President Biden did willfully retain and disclose classified information, which is a crime, but ultimately decided that criminal charges are not warranted in this case. And he said that that would be true despite the Justice Department's policy that a sitting president can't be charged. In other words, even if that policy wasn't in place, Mr. Hur would have recommended no criminal charges against the former president. Nonetheless, there are...
So the reason for this is, so a lot of people are going to call this Biden favoritism. It's possible to an extent there is a degree of favoritism, even though the investigator denies it. But in reality, as I understand it, literally, basically everyone in Congress has mishandled documents. You know, congressional teams get like loads and loads of classified information they pour over. They have it like sent over to their homes so they can peruse it, or other people's homes so they can peruse it. There's the thing that made Trump's specific was the hiding of it, the lying to the investigators. Like there was a lot of stuff around Trump's case specifically that elevated the degree of severity. If what Trump had did was simply like literally just had some documents at Mar-a-Lago and when they were found he handed them over, it wouldn't have been anywhere near the scandal that it was. Plus, like, we know that Trump was showing classified shit to random people, that kind of stuff. That being said, the main concern here for me is not the documents.
Some significant findings in here. The most alarming of which is that the special counsel found that then Vice President Biden discussed finding classified documents at a home he was using in Virginia in 2017 in a recording with a ghostwriter who was working on his memoir. And the special counsel concluded that those were likely the same documents that the FBI found in Mr. Biden's home in Delaware in 2022. And that was a significant fact, an incriminating fact. But the special counsel also found that Mr. Biden may well have forgotten about that incident and that it would be, in any case, very difficult to prove a criminal case. And I just want to read you a very telling passage. Mr. Hur's team wrote, "We've also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview with him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory." And he said that based on our direct interactions and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. So in other words, they found that while Mr. Biden did willfully retain this classified information, it's unlikely they could win a conviction, and it wouldn't...
How is commenting on age and cognition something an attorney is qualified to do? You don't need to be a doctor to see if a person's senile, right? Like, we all know that Biden's brain is cooked. He barely makes public appearances. He can't talk for that long without up. But if he's starting to have like serious memory issues, that's another thing entirely. There's cognitive disability that prevents you from being a good speaker, which is a huge problem, you know, but not necessarily disqualifying from political office. You know, I like that can be worked around, I guess, even though it's a big deal. But if it starts to affect your memory, that is a big problem.
Even be in the interest of justice. And I should say, Lester, that this report makes a point of distinguishing this Biden case from the Trump case. It says
I want to talk about his brain.
You know, its role is not to evaluate the prosecution of Mr. Trump, but based on the plain facts, there are several distinguishing features, namely that Mr. Trump. The other significant thing I want to communicate to you is that the main classified documents that Mr. Biden apparently withheld and kept at his home had to do with his role in the debate over surging troops to Afghanistan during the Obama administration back in 2009. If you recall, Mr. Biden was one of the few voices arguing against sending more troops to Afghanistan.
Okay, that's not talking about his brain. I want to talk about his brain. Yeah, this just happened a few days ago. Biden appears to mix up Macron with Mitterrand, the French president who died in 1996. We need to watch the video of it, though. Like, there's no point to just reading a transcript. Where's the damn video? Here we go.
You know, right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. It was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from Germany, from France, looked at me and said, you know, why, how long are you back for? You know, right after
okay, stupid thing.
I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting.
He did it with the German chancellor too. Is this a video? Biden shares story about talking with European leader who was dead at the time for a third time this week. Video. Told Democratic donors in New York that he spoke about the riot with former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, whose death predates the event by nearly half a decade. He mixed up foreign names. I've heard you do this on stream. Of course, obviously. I mix up my speaking all the time. But, like, come on. Let's not delude ourselves here, right? I want to get the video. Somebody link me the video. In the meantime, I want to read the text of the article from the special investigator who's claiming that he's... Special counsel Robert Hur has declined to prosecute Joe Biden for his hand in classified, but said Biden's practices present serious risks to national security and added that Biden portrayed himself as an elderly man with a poor memory who would be sympathetic to a jury. Hur's report included several shocking lines about Biden's memory, which the report said was significantly limited during his 2023 interviews with a special counsel. Biden's age and presentation would make it more difficult to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that the now 81-year-old was guilty of willfully committing a crime. We also have considered that, at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, it said. Based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Later in the report, the special counsel said the president's memory was worse during their interview with him compared to his memory in recorded conversations from 2017. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? And forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. In 2009, am I still vice president, the report said. Biden also had difficulty remembering the timing of his son's Beau's death, as well as a debate about Afghanistan. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died, the report said. In a Monday letter to her, and his deputy special counsel, Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president, and Bob Bauer, Biden's personal counsel, refuted how the report characterized the president's memory. We do not believe the report's treatment of President Biden's memory is accurate or appropriate, Sauber and Bauer wrote in the letter, which was also released on Thursday. The report uses highly prejudicial language to describe a commonplace occurrence among witnesses, a lack of recall of years-old events. But of course they would say that. Guys, this is really bad. It's too late to nominate someone else. How fucked are we? Well, Donald Trump is also mentally cooked, but it's pretty bad. I mix up and forget names constantly, and I'm only 37. This isn't in itself a sign of dementia. Come on. There's no one single kill shot sign of senility from an external, like observing a person. Like you could, like any bit of like a forgotten element, like any bad memory, you could be like, oh, well, everyone forgets. Like, yes, we're talking about the summation, the collection of all available evidence, which seems to point, pretty strongly to Biden being mentally cooked. Trump is better at looking non-mentally cooked. Yeah. I feel like I do not recall is just the default answer to not incriminate yourself. Yeah, but he's doing this for stuff that isn't relevant to the stuff that he was being investigated for. So I don't know what, like, reason he would have to behave that way. Ronald Reagan defeated communism with half his brain tied behind his back. I feel like Reagan was better at hiding how cooked his brain was. Nancy and staff did it for him. Yeah, it's just... In the age of like mass media, mass social media, you expect to have a loud and out there head of state. I want a loud and out there head of state, I want a president who could be giving like daily briefings. One of the things that made FDR so popular were his fireside chats, right? The ability for a head of state to communicate clearly and effectively, constantly to the population. I mean, that's very reassuring. That's a very important part of projecting the strength and interest of a leader, Joe Biden is so unwilling to, unable, I guess. He barely speaks in public, and when he does, it's not for long, and it also doesn't sound good. Even the stuff we like dark Brandon him for, he's old and dawdling, and it's tiresome, and he will have 4 more years. He'll be president for another 5, basically, if he gets elected again in this upcoming election. Yes, Quoteth. Biden has been mostly invisible for the past 3 years. Here, I'll put it this way. Who did you hear about more during their respective presidential terms? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? The answer is obvious. Now, a lot of that is because Donald Trump constantly said and did really dumb shit, which got him, headed in news, news articles and CNN discussion and blah, blah. But it's not just that, right? It's also that Donald Trump was fairly energetic and communicative about his intentions as president. His intentions might have been, but he was loud and communicative. Yeah, the dude can't shut the fuck up. It's kind of necessary. It's important, I'd rather have a funny dementia old dude as president than an unfunny fascist dementia. Whoa, stop. Don't do this like, well, he's better than Trump. No shit, he's better than Trump. Obviously, what? Come on. Don't need to qualify everything I say with that, do I? I've been saying it nonstop since I started the channel. Also, Trump is funny. Come on. Don't be silly. To an extent, Somniostatic, but again, like, he had to know this stuff was going to be written up, right? That's a pretty dangerous tactic to take when you know people are already getting after you for being senile. We're not going to win with the dimensional riddle old guy. This is the grand crime. This is the evil shit they did, okay? The most evil shit the Democrats do and love to do is convince you that their way is the best way, that there's no better world. The GOP doesn't do this for the most part. The GOP will talk about how it's going to make America great again or whatever, but the GOP doesn't really present an end of history narrative. To them, to the fascist, the future is dynamic because it's theirs to control. Fascists operate on the assumption that everything they dislike about society can be broken into shape. Otherwise, why would they even bother running? But liberals are so institutionalist that their messaging is always mired in like, well, this is how things are. This is how things will be. This is how it is. This is how it's always been. This is what you can expect. This is what's reasonable. Moderation, neutrality, bipartisanship, compromise. And one of the worst things the DNC has done in recent memory, in addition to abetting a genocide, is the fact that they convinced you guys, all of us, that it was acceptable to have Biden be a 2-term president. Biden's aides signaled, he never explicitly said it apparently, but like it was heavily implied and discussed and accepted broadly that Biden would be a 1-term president. Everybody knew he was old. He joked about how he was old. Everyone expected this. This wasn't like, it wasn't like a dirty secret or whatever. He was the guy from Obama's presidency coming in to stabilize things after Trump. But the DNC, not only did the DNC put no effort whatsoever into putting like other candidates to the forefront, other candidates up on stage, they chastised people for doing so. They suppressed those efforts. It's ridiculous. Biden should have announced back in 2022 or 23 or whatever, he should have announced, like, yeah, I am doing a one-term presidency. I'm an old man and I've served my term and I had a great time doing it, but it's time for me to step down and let a younger generation run. I would accept anyone over Biden at this point. Kamala Harris, admittedly, is detestable and repellent and lizard-like in many ways. I would accept Pete Buttigieg at this point. Just somebody who doesn't look like he's about to keel over and die. Like, anyone. Even Hillary? Not Hillary. I would have accepted Gavin Newsom. Yeah, there are so many candidates that could have been, and it would have taken work, right? But they could have been promoted all the way back from 2022. That would have given like a full, like, 2, maybe even 2.5 years to build up a respectable primary base. And we go through it again. Don't make Biden being primaried some kind of like, disgraceful indication of his inability to preside effectively as president, right? Just say, yeah, I'm an old man and I've had my time. I've been in government for like more than half my life by far. Now it's your guys' turn. You take the stage. But they didn't do that because they never want you to think anything can be better. They never want you to aspire to any kind of change. Any change the DNC facilitates or promotes, it's always the bare minimum necessary. And because you can run Biden for a second term, you're goddamn right we're running Biden for a second term. And now his brain is melting in his skull. Nikki Bugs, I guarantee you that Biden is not staying because of obstinance. I mean, that might be a part of it, but the reason he's staying is because the DNC is giving him the go-ahead. The party apparatus is more powerful than any individual president, There are larger considerations in mind. I don't know. Do you think the DNC can decide to run someone else at the convention? No. No. It's way too late. Way too late. Yeah, we'll see, Quoteth. Is there anything left to be done other than despair and vote, I guess? Just look, everyone clasp your hands in prayer and pray that Donald Trump doesn't that they don't have a debate and Biden has an aneurysm on the debate stage and collapses or something and just dies right there. Just, could Trump die before the election? Anyone can die anytime. I don't know what you mean. I mean, sure, meteor can hit you. That's not accurate at all. They could absolutely switch to a different candidate even as late as a convention. Not to say it's going to happen, but it's 100% totally. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do it. I'm just saying the idea of swapping in an incumbent president who is currently running with someone else who's been given basically no startup time on running and campaigning would be insane. I mean, you could do it, but it would be Biden could whip his dick out on stage. I don't think he's going to do that either. I think those two things are equally likely. They could probably feign a medical condition. I don't know if they'd have to feign one. They could swap to Cenk. Yeah, true. They could. That's true. Don't care, didn't ask. Still voting for Cenk. Would you prefer Biden or Cenk as nominee? Well, Cenk wouldn't win, so I'd prefer Biden. But I mean, if Cenk had the same chance as winning as Biden, I would prefer Cenk by quite a lot. I mean, again, I know that my opinion on the TYT has been pretty negative lately, but obviously, given the circumstances, assuming he had an equal chance to win, which he doesn't. So he would also be the funniest president of all time.